Thank you so much for joining us. Hello and welcome to one and all. I am Dr. Asawari Savant from Elets Technomedia, and this is yet another episode of Elets National EV Summit EV Dialogue, which is a one-on-one conversation with our experts in electric mobility here. And for today's discussion, we have a very eminent expert here with us,
Mr. Maxon Lewis, founder and CEO of Magenta Mobility.
So thank you so much for joining us. We're so glad to have you today.
Thank you, Asawari, and thank you, the Elets team, for it's a privilege for me to be on this platform, and thanks for the opportunity to share my thoughts and views to the larger audience through you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, sir, our audience is B2B industry specific audience, and these innovation talks in the form of EV Dialogue are precursor to our upcoming event. So we would like to have some unique insights into this episode. Let us start with our first question, which is basic about Magenta Mobility. Can you please share our audience the different kinds of work that Magenta Mobility is into and how they are impacting the EV landscape in India?
Correctly. So, Savri, many people know of Magenta as a company which is largely in the EV charging space, but let me demystify this for everyone. We started way back in 2018 when people did not know what was the full form of EV. We've had multiple conversations with people and ways to say EV, electricity is the new oil, and people could not understand that, not only in India but even abroad. So way back in 2018, we started off in this journey and we started to solve one problem at a time. During that time, it was about EV charging. Then we came down to the fact that EV technology, which is hardware and software, and then COVID struck for everyone. And then during that time, we actually did a lot of good work with a lot of EV OEMs. But what are we right now? It's important to know. So we have three business verticals at Magenta Mobility. Our largest business vertical is logistics. We own and operate India's largest electric cargo platform. It's more than 2,000 vehicles, 3-wheelers and 4-wheelers running on our platform and doing mid-mile and last-mile deliveries for customers. This is supported by a second business, which is the EV charging business. We run and operate one of India's largest charging networks. We have more than 100 charging depots, right? We believe that it's the largest in India, but this is to support the entire fleet that we have, right? And the third business vertical that we have is called as informatics, which makes the technology for running those vehicles and the logistics and also for charging. And these three together is actually Magenta. So these are the three concurrent businesses that we run, each supporting others as well, but more importantly, captive to us. So this is where it is. And we will be going to more than 5,000 vehicles, electric vehicles by end of this financial year. So we have a big task at hand already. So that's what Magenta Mobility is in terms of business. But in terms of ethos, there are three non-negotiables with us: safety, quality, and integrity. We are known in the industry for not doing business if it doesn't meet these three ethos of safety, quality, and integrity. And what are we out to resolve? I think decarbonizing logistics. I want to leave the audience with the thought that all these three businesses are an outcome of a thought process. And the outcome of the thought process is decarbonize logistics. Because logistics contributes one of the largest amount of urban pollution, right? And hence one of the reasons why we thought of doing that. So that's what Magenta in a kind of a nutshell for you, really speaking.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing it for our audience. Amazing work Magenta is doing. So since inception, this would be, as you shared, I will have my follow-up question around the same lines. So as you shared, since your inception till now, what kind of changes have you observed in the EV landscape in India while you're working at it, while you're planning for the future? How is it more convenient for you to operate around EV now, or was it now then and now it's more stringent? How is it like?
I'll answer this question with three questions, really, right? And I'm not talking about Magenta as a company or a logistics. Let's talk about you, Savri. In 2018-19, your question in your mind when you were about to buy a car would have been, what is an electric vehicle, right? Around that time. Come 2020, 21, 22, you would say, hey, listen, if you're buying a vehicle, why not consider an electric vehicle? Right? Let's find more about it. 23, 24, what's the question? Why not an electric vehicle? Right? So you understood the transition has been, these three questions gives you the huge transition that's happening right now. From a mindset where we used to talk about what is an electric to why not an electric, right? And this is true globally, but let me give you a little bit more insights in India, what has happened. I mean, that's a very, very nice way of putting it, but let me tell you on the ground what happened. When we started off in 2018 and we were conversing electricity is going to be the new oil, picking this conversation with the government, with agencies, with OEM. More often than not, we were the educators. We had to tell them that electric vehicles, the first question used to be, nahi chalega. Charging network kahan par hai? Where exactly is all going to happen? Who's going to build it? What is the cost of batteries, etc. But gradually, what has happened is there were pioneers like us, and it's not only Magenta, there were other companies also who were constantly at it. There was no business model out there, but we knew that this is the future. We stuck at it. And fortunately, we had good partners along. Incidentally, HPCL, Hindustan Petroleum Corporation, seed funded us. Right? It also helped us build up the entire technology play, hardware and software. But since then, and we thought, okay, everything is going to be great, and then COVID came in. Right? So the 2 years of COVID literally pulled back the adoption of EV by a certain time. And I think it's true for all businesses, but so much for a transitionary business like electric vehicles. Right? But something interesting happened post-COVID. People started to understand the need for clean transportation. Why? Because they saw cleaner skies that time. You remember from Delhi, people started to see, "Arey, ye to Himalaya aise bhi dikhai deta hai." Yeah. And hence, there was a sense of, coming out of COVID, people had a sense of things can be better and should be better. Right? So suddenly, I call it the rule of 6%. Any new technology which needs to get adopted, till the time it doesn't reach 6%, it is called as pioneering. It's some people like us who want to try something, etc. They are the ones who adopt. Only after 6%, it becomes, I call it a 6 to 50%, which is a transitioning to adoption, mass adoption. And post 50%, so right now, there is something very interesting has happened in the electric vehicle space. In cars, probably no, not as much adoption. But if you were to see a two-wheeler today, there's a high probability the two-wheelers close to, we've already breached a certain, the numbers in the two-wheelers is astoundingly high. But not many people realize it. In three-wheelers, close to around 50% of the three-wheelers sold in India are now electric. Right? And no one did it. It started to happen slowly and gradually. So the ecosystem started. Second, I think give credit. I'll give credit where it is due to the government of India and its various agencies. I think the government of India was one of the few countries globally who started to talk about electric vehicles much earlier than many countries. Right? I mean, we have the Chinas of the world and the Europes who are way ahead, but that's a different thing. India started talking, and a lot of policies were put in place. In fact, the first electric vehicle policy, state policy, was way back in 2014. Not many people know this, right? But it started to be done. A lot of conversations started to happen, which means it became easier that the policy was driving adoption. And the more important point is, I put it this way, that the government of India put money where its mouth is, which is with the FAME subsidy, right? It's very easy to say, "Kal ghar ke sab badal daluga," but someone has to invest money. And the government of India put that money in the form of subsidies. Today, what has happened is the subsidies stabilize the system so much that today the government of India is thinking of pulling back some of the subsidies where the adoption is already happening. Right? So there is a transition at the level of people's minds, which is the three questions I talked about. There's a on the ground change in terms of the infrastructure, but also the government's initiative and the various agencies' initiatives have already started falling in place. So these are the gradual but very important changes that have happened. And on the policy side, I'll just tell you there are three policies which I call them rockstar policies of the government of India. One of the policies was the de-licensing of the charging space, which means electricity can now be sold by a person like you and me. Earlier, it was not possible in EV charging. That happened in November 2018. That's policy number one. Policy number two was the FAME policy, which is a supporting, and the third one was the PLI, wherein government is supporting companies to set up and establish manufacturing in India for EV and batteries. I think these are the three rockstar policies, and we don't really talk about it. But this is the gradual, or I would say, some inflectionary changes that have happened over the last couple of years.
Definitely, sir. So you couldn't, nobody could have explained it better than you did. And as the three policies that you were talking about, where does the new EV policy lie in these areas? Obviously, these three have built up to what the new policy, EV policy is right now. But what are your expectations from this upcoming new EV policy? Would it, help you in your businesses? Would it help the end users, the four-wheeler consumers like me, or would it help businesses when it comes to logistics? As you were saying that much of the operations take up by logistics, and if we have to do EV in that area, that would support the environment a lot.
Sure. So I think, firstly, from a policy perspective, I think the best part has been that the fact that government has been very tuned into the industry, right? Many people don't give credits to government, but some of the policies, they really haven't driven the adoption, but they have enabled the adoption, right? And let's talk about the new EV policy. I think of course, I'm just waiting for a couple of months from now in which everything on the socio-political side stabilizes, and that will be the right time to make a real comment about the new policy. But even in its current form and shape, the extension of the FAME 2 policy to support not necessarily places where already the adoption has happened, but to other places. For example, the logistics side, I would believe that the new policy would want to take and consider larger formats, because earlier it was the two-wheeler, three-wheeler, but now the four-wheeler LEVs, HCVs have already, or MCVs have started off. So yes, I believe there's going to be a support out there. But I have a very different angle to it. The angle is, government is putting money not to the consumer, but now to the manufacturer and R&D. So there's also a big transition there, right? Where's the money going? Turning to PLI schemes, etc. for manufacturing. So government has understood that the ecosystem is no longer driving cash into the hand of people at the point of consumption, because wo ho gaya hai. It's understood. Now you put that money to the point of where it is generation of this adoption, which is at the manufacturer, at the R&D. So I think I'm totally, it's a brilliant progression of those policies. What I would think of essentially right now is not to pull back from these support systems. I think it's just another year or two that the government needs to do it. And if you remember just today morning, there's a news article on China, how China is now earlier, whenever we used to talk about a vehicle, I'm not talking electric, normal vehicle, used to talk about the European, it's a European car, or it's an American car, or it's a Japanese car. Within 9 years, China is the biggest manufacturer of cars on the back of electric vehicle only. They're not the biggest in petrol and diesel. In 9 years, they have been able to establish that and become the world's largest manufacturer of electric vehicles. So I think this is an opportunity for India now. And I think I would encourage anyone and everyone who's part of this ecosystem to start believing in it and start supporting it a lot more. I think that's my suggestion, and especially with the government, in whatever channels and means I could tell this to the government is, now is not the time to think whether we have done the right thing. Now is the time to double down on it. That would be my statement on the policy.
Definitely, sir. As other industries are adopting the Make in India concept, such as health diagnostics, etc., the Make in India concept needs to be widened for the EV landscape in India as well. That would also support the overall cost of the EV vehicles. That could be a limitation for four-wheelers, commercial users such as me, anybody else for that matter. Okay, so coming. Yes.
I just have a point on this, Asawari, because I'm very happy you picked up the point about Made in India, right? And if you, with your permission, I just want to elaborate a small point over here.
Please go ahead, sir. Yes.
Is the fact that the Make in India problem or Atmanirbhar Bharat, in every other industry, you are starting to compete in a space which has already been taken by someone, right? The electric vehicle industry, I call it, is a revolution which is happening, and you are not very differently biased. I think in terms of positive or negative for yourself, right? So it's almost like a common platform for now. What you do now, you are competing in the same space, which means this is a brilliant opportunity for India. And I will not shy away from saying that if the world is looking at a China plus one story, right? I am ready to go out on a limb and say this as much that if India misses the opportunity in the electric vehicle space, it's a big loss on us, and we will lose to be part of a revolution. One revolution that we really caught big time was the software revolution, right? The technology revolution. The world is presenting us an opportunity again to take up the EV revolution. And I'll explain to you. The world has sent, I mean, where the car, electric vehicle, the four-wheeler, where was it designed? It was not designed in India. It came from Europe or America or Japan. The electric vehicle also, right? Because they are the largest builders in China is. But where are the two-wheelers? Who's the biggest manufacturer of two-wheelers in the world? Motorcycles. It's India. Or three-wheelers, it's again India. So now we have an opportunity to redesign the two-wheeler, three-wheeler electric version in India and then start exporting it out. So I believe it's a brilliant opportunity. It's just a matter of taking it and not losing it. It would be a big shame on us that if we lose this. But sorry, because Asawari, you picked up the Made in India Atmanirbhar Bharat, and I personally feel very emotionally connected to that subject.
Of course, definitely, and that is why I highlighted this aspect. So maybe not just make in India, but make in India for the world could be our next, our tagline. When it comes to especially the two-wheelers and three-wheelers space that you have highlighted. So, okay, so these are the future plans that you are very, connected to from your heart. But when it comes to reality, we have a 30 by 30, EV model going on by, 30% vehicles by 2030 all across these countries who have decided. And when it comes to India, how realistic is this goal as per your experience in this field? We're not meaning to, promote what is not there or demotivate the people who are working, but just a general realistic perspective from your experience.
Sure. So when the Honorable Transport Minister in 2018, Gadkari ji, 2018 used to say 2025, he'll move out all and everything will be electric. Not everyone believed in him because they thought this is outrageous. But because of his outrageous statement, today we are sitting and talking electric vehicles. Let's be honest about it. Now what's happening around is the adoption of electric vehicle. And I told you, right, two-wheeler and three-wheeler, we've already adopted. Even without people thinking about it, it's already done. Now, electric vehicle incidentally is a use case specific. You cannot put the bus and the two-wheeler and the three-wheeler in the same bracket and say, hey, listen, what is the adoption of electric vehicles? By the way, incidentally, all new buses which are being procured by government and government agencies right now are all electric. Right? So all state government, etc., at least in the cities and the, let's say, short hauls, the long hauls still maybe. So there also there's more money which is coming. There's a lot of investments that are happening. So I would believe that if I were to say whether we can reach 30% of EV adoption by 2030, I think we can do a lot better. Because in three-wheelers it has already gone beyond 30%. Right? But this is where people need to build a use case. What will go 30% or higher is last mile, intra-city transport, all of that will go electric. It will be the long hauls which may take longer. Right? So hence bunching all of it together is the wrong thing. Last one more point, and this is a very interesting concept about us Indians. We are very value for money people. Right? We understand value for money like nobody else. All this time the value for money in electric vehicles was not really understood. But the day the rickshaw fellow in Delhi realized that electric makes sense, see the adoption of electric vehicles in Delhi. So we Indians, once that value for money is sorted, we will be the fastest adopters of this technology, right? And I'll give you has something similar happened in India? Yes. Telephones, mobile phones, right? Today, India is one of the biggest consumers of mobile data, mobile phones, etc. And from from no landlines to mobile phones. Today, a farmer has a mobile phone. He has never seen a landline in his life. So Indians are very good at jumping eras if the technology brings value to him, right? So I think the electric vehicle space also that's happening. But I don't want to be all glory and all great. Everything is going great. No, that's not how it is. We still have some problems. We still have issues like electricity, downtime, etc., etc. Not everyone in the ecosystem is very gung-ho about electric, right? For example, people ask questions, "Arey, मेरे गांव में बिजली नहीं है, मैं charging कहाँ करूँगा?" But they don't realize that India is the most now 100% electrified country. So there will be challenges, but the point is, those challenges will need to be solved over the next couple of months and years. So I'm very bullish about it, but I'm conscious about the problems also. That's how I will put it.
Definitely, sir. Very well expressed. Because coming from somebody who is not working in the EV space directly, and just looking at the different policies that are coming out, the different state initiatives of adopting EV across the country, the policies around EV do vary as per different states. Some states such as New Delhi, Maharashtra, Karnataka, etc. are adopting very widely, have many different provisions under the states, and hence we can see many charging spots for the consumers, many e-rickshaws, many e-buses, and all such initiatives being well supported by the government. But I also see the parallel contrast into my hometown, which is not a very developed city. I mean, not a very remote city, but Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh. We do not see so many electric EV charging points. We do not see EV buses. We do not see as many EV auto rickshaws. So definitely there is a long way to go when it comes to standardization of the policies around EV across pan India. And I may be wrong here because I'm not the expert in this subject matter. You obviously can tell us even better if there needs to be a call for the standardization of such things across the country in all different states altogether. But we also understand that this may be hampered because different states are at different levels of development. All the states are not unique. As you rightly said, some of the remote towns do not have constant supply of electricity still. So that may be one of the biggest differences when it comes to adopting EV as a public transport or as a logistics solution. So what are your thoughts around this? What would you suggest? What are we looking for?
Sure. So see, this is interesting, Asawari. You talked about Bhopal, right? And you talked about the fact that you do not see that many electric vehicles on the road over there. That's because of one issue, which I call it the concept of perception. Asawari, when will you call electric vehicle adoption has taken off is when you see more passenger cars on the road, right? And that's not there many of them in Bhopal. But the same Bhopal has one of highest density of electric two-wheelers and electric rickshaws, right? So that is one perception thing also. And I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that it's essentially you start to register a vehicle only when it's a four-wheeler. But I have told this not only now. In 2018, when people ask me how is the adoption going to be, I said first it is going to be two-wheeler, three-wheeler, buses, and last is going to be cars. Right? Because that's the natural adoption growth that's going to happen, and that's exactly what is happening. However, it could have been better. But what happens is the adopters of a new, this is a technology change. Right? It's a technology change means how everyone has, there's the first people who can ready to take the risk of an adoption are the people with a higher income group or who come with a little bit more awareness and support system, which happened in the cities tier 1. But now this is percolating down to tier 2. So the same person when you go to Bhopal and you say electric vehicles now, but then they will start asking. So that transaction, it is the same approach of tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. I believe, however, the e-rickshaws and the the public transport is better adopted in tier 2 cities than in tier 1 already. So that would be my view on geographically how this penetration is going to happen. However, uh, I will want to say about one thing. These are going to be pockets of adoption. Case in point, Agra for that matter. You know all the rickshaws are now electric anyways, right? It may not be in Bhopal, but that it has taken off. Delhi is a case in point. Why? Because there's so much pollution. Everyone is talking about how can I make the roads a little bit better. So there are going to be pockets of adoption. In some cities will come in first, in some cities two, in 2 and 3. But hand on heart, I believe the biggest driver of adoption of electric vehicles in India will be done in the villages. The day that villager understands that, hey listen, मेरे को petrol diesel के लिए पैसा ही डालना नहीं पड़ता है. Second, I don't even have to go to a petrol pump which is like say 5 kilometers away or 10 kilometers away. बिजली मेरे घर पे आ रही है, and I'm able to charge my vehicle. Very interesting case. We found a lot of egg collectors and milk vans and milk on the bikes have all transitioned. In few villages, they have done 100%. So this is a very interesting case that's opening here. I wish and pray that it becomes faster, but I know that the challenges will be. The challenge today is, अगर कल रात को बिजली नहीं आई तो मेरा गाड़ी चार्ज नहीं होगा, so how will I will lose my business. I think that's one of the biggest fear factors that's going on in people's minds right now. That's where it is. But it's happening even without you and I even talking about it.
Also, for that matter, I believe range anxiety also comes under play. Although with latest advancements in the technology and different manufacturing of latest EV models, that range anxiety aspect is getting sorted very nicely. But still, this is one of the concerns that I've heard from public taxi people, rickshaw people, that we fear not finding before our charge runs out, or we fear having to stop and charge in so many trips and something like that. So very practical snippets that we see here and there. Of course, not from an expert's point of view, just an end consumer point of view. What I feel people of my generation, feel while we are investing in our first car or new car or the next car for that matter in this generation, this era, we definitely do want to go for electric vehicle. But when we add up the initial cost of buying it and things, the initial costs do tend to have a little hindrance when it comes to four vehicles. But I am sure by the time we achieve this 30 by 30, we would have these matters around financials and cost also under our belt as a country whole. So, sir, the next question to you would be, as the CEO of Magenta Mobility, you've overseen the company's growth to become one of India's largest electric logistics fleet operators. What strategies have been pivotal in achieving this milestone for you, and what challenges have you encountered along the way? Of course, we cannot discuss everything that you have experienced so far in such short time, but some top points that you would want to share with the audience, as the audience also comes from B2B industry space and would be able to learn from your learnings as well.
Sure. Asawari, just before I go to answering this question, I'll go to the earlier comment that you made very nicely on the TCO side of it. The TCO concept is the biggest hindrance right now, because we believe that, hey, why should I pay it upfront to cycle data? But there's something very interesting which is happening. Battery prices have collapsed. What was $128 per kilowatt hour today is somewhere around $64, $65 per kilowatt hour. But diesel prices have increased, right? So if you were to start about the TCO concept, the electric vehicle for high usage cases, which is B2B, has already fallen in place. It may not be workable for a passenger segment because I use my vehicle for 40 kilometers in a day. But my fleet operator runs it for 120 kilometers a day or 200 kilometers. So the TCO there becomes very positive. So I just thought I should leave that thought of the TCO. The electric vehicle TCO is driven by utilization, and that is the important piece. So that TCO is falling in for B2B. So since your audience is largely B2B, I think that is already in place. Now, let's come to this point that you talked about is Magenta, right? And what are some of the challenges? I think the first challenge was the business model did not exist. When you're setting up a company, you need to know where your money comes from, right? And at that point in time, there were not electric vehicles on the road, and the ecosystem did not exist. So the first challenge was to survive in an ecosystem which is just started. Right? Everyone was excited, electric vehicles aayega, वगैरह, but where the money was coming from, this was the first part. But we survived that because we got support grant from companies like HPCL. We were seed funded by HPCL, and then again we had support from Microsoft. We were then invested in by BP, Morgan Stanley, Gito. So these got great companies standing by us, right? So this is how we've been able to work through and build up. Second challenge was largely, I call it the challenge of awareness. Even today, because we do a lot of mid-mile deliveries, last-mile deliveries for a lot of big companies. There's a high probability the next time you get something delivered to you at your home, be it at Amazon, Flipkart, would typically be on an electric vehicle, right? Because they are driving it. But that's on the e-commerce. But even now, you take FMCGs, pharma, all of these companies are still going the traditional route. They have not yet started to see value, and the issue is that of awareness. Because the first thing they ask is charging kahan karenge? Gaadi atkega to kahan kya hoga? My business will atke. So I think the problem statements are real. They have already been solved. The range of the vehicle is improved. So hence it is no longer a problem. I think those are the kind of conversations and those are the kind of awarenesses that need to happen. So Magenta has been fortunately one of the pioneers in this space. So many times for the client asks, Magenta se baat karo, unko pata hoga kya solution hai. So that is helping us. So first was the business model I talked about. Second was the client's understanding or awareness. Now, as the market has matured, there's a third challenge. The third challenge is the market in India is typically a fragmented market. And whenever there's a fragmented market, it's the I love competition. I love good competition. But suddenly now everyone sees that as an opportunity. So everyone wants to jump in with a negative competition, which means I'm not ready to think about how to run business. I'm just thinking of valuation. So people are underpricing, undercutting. So you understood it. Earlier the issue was business model. Now the business model is so solid that everyone wants to get in it in a very different way. So this is the challenges have also evolved as the ecosystem has evolved. But we have been able to survive through that, and now we have been able to spend. There was no money, so now when there's so much money to be made and a business to be made, I would say. So we continue to survive, but the challenges will be there. So now it's a challenge of how we scale up quickly soon, and I hope that gets solved. And then I will need to think of the challenge of, hey, listen, how can I go international very quickly? So these are the different kind of challenges we have evolved through the years. Another one small challenge is the right people. Earlier, people did not know electric vehicles, so it was difficult. So Magenta invested in building up the training, etc. Today, that is no longer a problem. Today, there's enough and plenty and interest also in the electric vehicles. So this is the Magenta's journey in the challenges space.
Thank you so much, sir, for so nicely explaining us, giving us time, from your valuable schedule. So we come down to the very last question of our discussion today, which is a little for our benefit, which is that Elets is coming up with National EV Summit. And thank you so much for being part of this initiative. But if you, as we have government policymakers, industry leaders such as yourself and others, as well as policy implementers all under one roof, what kind of, what specific areas would you want us to touch upon during the discussion over there? Or what areas do you feel more discussion is required?
Sure. So like I said, Sauri, the most important thing is there was no market, the market is coming, right? Technology was there, the technology is coming in. I am a proud Indian and I always believe that we have an opportunity of a lifetime to make India the EV capital of the world in whatever form and shape. I don't want. And there are multiple layers to it. If there is a group of people whom I can approach and talk about and through your channel, I think 2-3 things we need to talk about in that platform during the National EV Summit is, first is India supporting building new technology in the EV space, or are we just taking it from somewhere and just putting it together, right? So I don't want to talk about manufacturing. I'm talking about technology development, R&D. That's one of the important, because otherwise what we'll do, we'll take the R&D from elsewhere and just get into manufacturing, and that then it will become like solar panels. The more money is made in making the wafers than into the solar panels, because R&D that will decided somewhere. So I think this is one of the asks that I want to, I think through your medium we should be putting on the table. Second, I think it's also to think of the businesses in the right way, because everyone till today, and Asawari, I just proved it to you that you register an electric vehicle as electric vehicle on the road, adoption of electric only when you see a passenger car. But I think there's a lot of conversation, and for that every rupee spent on decarbonizing, it's better to decarbonize in somewhere else rather than the passenger segment. Right? I think it's important to peel the onion on this and address the right formats. I think this is the third one. Important one is, while there is enough brain capacity in India, there's enough trained manpower. But because this is an industry which is going to take off. It's already taking off. This is going to be a consumer of so much talent. Where is the talent getting built in? Because still today in India, our traditional engineering is still mechanical, civil, electrical, electronics, computer science, etc. And there's a super focus on the computer science, etc. But EV is a mixture of base engineering. Base engineering being electrical, mechanical, electronics. And this is a combination. So I think we are going to hit the talent availability curve very soon. I think these are the 2-3 points I think would be important to discuss now, so that 2 years down the line, those are not the problems we have to address.
Definitely, sir. And I'm very sure my team on the back end is taking notes already, and for implementing these kind of discussion points in our upcoming summit. So thank you so much,
Mr. Maxon Lewis, founder and CEO of Magenta Mobility,
for taking out time from a busy schedule, imparting us with a wealth of knowledge and information in this very short duration today. Thank you so much. We're so glad to have you on the show. I would also like to thank our audience for staying with us till the very end. But before we go off, sir, any signing off remarks from you for our audience?
I will make a statement. Adopting electric vehicles or clean mobility is no longer an option. If we don't do it today, our children may not have it tomorrow. So I think it's an important thing. It's a call, a decision that you have to take. So don't think about TCO and money upfront. You have to do it because it's the future at stake for our kids. I would put it that. And thank you so much. Thanks for inviting me over for this interesting conversation. I wish you all the best for the Elets National EV Summit as well.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.